The following program contains adult language, poor taste in jokes, racial slurs, political slurs, slants, and all sorts of things that, if you are sensitive and have a delicate constitution, you should probably go watch Teletubbies. You were warned.
We're back. I'm going to do another little clip in here. As you can see, I don't have everything quite switched over to the new frame yet. There were a few things that I ran into with this once I started pulling everything up that I wanted to make a couple notes on before I get it switched over. Once it's actually switched over, it's going to be real quick. It's going to be a very fast reassembly. But there were a couple things that like I said, I ran into here that I wanted to make note of before I got that far. So, first things first. I had mentioned in the last little clip that I was planning on pulling the board off and pulling it over here and setting it, and then pulling everything else and setting it. That will not happen. The reason being is this board is actually soldered in. It is direct soldered, or I'm sorry, the power wire, the main power wire is direct soldered into the board. So there's no plugs. You can't unplug that and pull it off. Now, you can unsolder that if you want, not a big deal. I'm not going to do that. I am actually going to undo everything as is, pull it up, and put it over on the new body. Just keep it all one unitary piece. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to undo each of the motors and kind of set them up and out of the way, and then pull everything out of the way, pull a body out from under it, slide the new one in, and go from there. So that being said, with the main power wires, you cannot pull that board out and just set it. So, not a huge issue, but I did want to make note of it. Also, I did find where the ribbon cable here goes and how to disassemble that. So, I wanted to make a note of that here real quick. On the bottom side, you'll see these pins. This is for the battery, and they seat just right down here when the board sits in place. But underneath, directly underneath of that, where the ribbon cable slides up into, you can see if I can, yeah. See that white right there, that white glue? That is another ribbon cable holder like the one we ran into on the top here. So it has the little black piece that you pull up, and then the ribbon cable can slide out. Now, note, like I said, there is white glue there. They do have this ribbon cable on the bottom, lightly glued into place, so you do have to kind of pull on it a little bit. Try to be careful, don't break it off in there, because then it's going to be stuck in there and you're going to have a lot bigger problem on your hands. So just be careful of that. And one thing I also wanted to say with the ribbon cable, the new body, the new frame does come with it, and they do already have a piece of adhesive. I don't know if you can see that, get my finger out of the way. They already do have a piece of adhesive on the back of this ribbon cable. So, as you can see, there's a little flap right here, and once you get it in place, you pull that off, and you can stick it straight down like the original was. When I switch everything over and put it in the new body, I will be putting everything into place first, getting the board and everything seated down roughly where I want it, and then pulling the adhesive backing off of this to where the stickiness is exposed, plugging it into the board, pushing the board down, and then pressing down on the ribbon cable to get it into place and stuck into place. So again, first is setting everything, then once the board is roughly seated right here, you can just kind of tip it up like we can on this one now. Once you can do that, then you pull the adhesive backing off of this to where the actual adhesive strip is exposed on the back of the ribbon cable. Plug it into your board, seat the board down in its spot, and then push this down. Then you can put your screws in. You can start reassembling with your heat sink and your compass, everything like that. And then, like I said, after that, everything else is going to go together pretty quick. The other thing I wanted to note here that I found out, another bit of soldering. Now, this isn't going to be an issue on the board. Like I said, we can just pull it up, throw it over. Not a big deal. This part you have to solder, though. And that is the LEDs on the bottoms of the arms. There is no way to get that LED through that slot, and these wires are connected in with the ESCs on the plugs. So there is no ifs, ands, or buts. You are going to unsolder these. So basically what you do is you pull the motor off, and I think I'm safe to flip this bad boy over here. And as you can see, they're just little LED strips, and there's just a ground and a voltage in. So just be careful, you know which one's which. Go ahead and unsolder them, pull them off, keep them matched up with the correct arms so all the lights work, the codes work, you know, when it transmits codes, etc. But it's not going to be too hard. There's 2 small solder points on each LED, and that's it. Once those are actually, that's going to be one of the last things I do, putting that in place. I will get the motors and everything mounted down, and then I will feed this wire through. They have it fed through at the bottom. I will probably feed it down through or past these motor wires here and leave it on top. And that way I'm not fumbling around with the motor while I'm trying to flip this thing over and resolder it. So once I put it back together, I'm not going to do it in exactly the same order I took it apart. I will put the motors back down first, and then I will feed the wire down through and resolder the LEDs into each arm. So that's the way that's going to go. Other than that, everything else pretty much went the way I had mentioned it was going to go when I was going to take this from this frame to this frame. Everything is pretty much falling into place the way I was hoping it would. These did come out just like I had mentioned. I showed you in the last video, the little clip, the two screws on each holding them in. Now, they are a bear to get to those bottom screws on this, to get these out, because you have all this stuff in the way on the sides for the frame and everything, and there's really no good way about it. The best thing that I can recommend, make sure you're using a screwdriver with a small diameter shaft and one that you can actually get a good grip on. Don't fight yourself and make it harder than it has to be and use something like this where you can't get a good grip, because these things are actually in there, guys. These screws in this plastic body, they have a little resistance. So use something you can actually get a little torque on, and you can actually get in there and you aren't making it harder than it needs to be. Other than that, you'll notice, mark top on each of these, and I don't think I'm going to have an issue with them flipping upside down because these wires are really stiff. But just in case, I don't want those to end up upside down, go to plug a battery in, and bad things will happen. So just, you know, as an extra precaution, I did mark on the tops of those what the top was. But other than that, like I said, everything's really going as planned. As soon as I get done with this little video clip, I'm going to turn the camera off and finish unmounting the motors, and then I will be pulling, after I unmount the motors, I will be pulling the LED strips off. I'm going to rotate it on the bench here, hang it over, use a soldering iron underneath, and just undo all the LEDs. Then I'll be able to pull everything up, put it over here, and then start reassembly, really. And from there, it should be pretty quick. And Ivan, I don't remember if I said this or not, but that's the gentleman that I'm fixing this for. If you're watching, I hope you're enjoying. This has been a learning experience. We'll say that. I hope you enjoy the work, brother. I hope you've enjoyed the videos, guys. And I'll catch you on the next little clip that I put up here once I get everything moved over and start putting this bad boy back together.
Mittens?